social media outrage and the news cycle sometimes has become very short and all about comments and opinions. But important events and stories go beyond that 1 or 2 day news cycle. Today I'm going to take a bit of time to talk about something that happened this week, and it's about the now infamous Tanishq ad controversy. So for those of you who haven't followed the story, Tanishq put out an ad to promote a new line of jewelry. The ad storyline was fairly simple. An interfaith marriage was depicted in it. A bride of a certain community has gone to a house of another community, and a baby shower is being organized for her in line with her own religious customs, which are alien to the family that she is married into. Though mother-in-law and daughter finally speak about it and decide that, it's more important to keep the daughter happy. So it's all about unity in diversity, a message we've all heard a lot of times ever since we were small and growing up. The backlash was something that possibly the company, the ad agency, and nobody really saw coming. The idea was that why does this ad show an interfaith marriage? Does it promote quote-unquote love jihad? And the backlash was so furious that the company finally had to withdraw the ad. In a statement said that we have to withdraw the ad because the safety of our staff is also at stake. After this, the advertising associations have come out and backed Tanishq, and they've backed the right to put out advertisements and commercials under freedom of speech, etc. And the story has sort of petered out there. The company was also questioned about why they buckled under and withdrew the ad, and a lot of back and forth about should they have, should they not have, what about the safety of their staff. But the question is really much larger. The question is, has a dangerous precedent been set? Has a precedent been set which will now possibly impact the messaging and communication that goes out into the public on big brands? And that is something that I want to talk about today. And joining me is, I would say, the A-listers of the group of people who understand branding and advertising in this country. So joining me today is Shailendra Singh, Joint MD of Percept Holdings, Santosh Desai, author, columnist and brand expert, and Roshan Abbas, MD of Geometry Encompass. Welcome to the India Development Debate to all of you, and thank you for speaking with us on a very, very important subject. Shailendra, I want to start by just getting your take on what has happened. I mean, I don't want to get into whether the company should have withdrawn the ad or not. It was a call they took. But do you think it sets a precedent, as I asked, the next time there is a major brand and there is a storyline similar to this or something like this, they're possibly going to say, is it worth the hassle?
Yeah, I think there are multiple issues with what has actually transpired with the advertisement and its withdrawal, and I think that pretty much hurts the fabric of India. The fabric of India is stitched together with certain principles, and that's why we are called the world's largest democracy. And that is a fact that Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Desai all live together. We are all one unit. We are 130 crore Indians who are one large family. This is the spirit of India. This is why we are the nation that we are. Now, this comes from it comes, of course, from our constitution, but it also comes from the fact that the leaders sitting in positions of power who should advocate this ideology top down. Now, obviously, it's not happening that way, and that's why the power of troll is to such an extent that a large organization like Tata, Tata is also, practically it's built. It's been a force in the building India from time of independence. I feel that it's a dark day in our democracy. I feel that the decisions from the top, there is a prime minister, there is a home minister, there's an information broadcasting minister. What are they doing? Every time there is an issue like this, these people are silent. So I think this whole idea of divide and rule has reached a very low level in this country. And if these things are not stopped, this is just, they always say a spark can light up a forest fire. Such incidents, if they continue, this is how a country is destroyed. So I truly believe that this was the responsibility of the government. This is an opportunity for the information broadcasting minister or the home minister or the chief minister or the prime minister to get out there and send a message that this is not the right thing to do. And for Tata, for God's sake, bring the ad back. I mean, your ideology, your thought process has to be not affected by trollers and people who just, sort of take you on because you're putting a message of unity, peace, and one India.
Yeah, but they said their employees' safety was at stake. There was an incident in Gujarat where there were threats, and then they had to put an apology note, etc. One of the brand managers was reportedly targeted. But Santosh Desai, I want to also understand the phenomenon of what happened. I mean, there is no real research or calculation out there about the absolute number of people who went out and spewed hate online or made vicious comments, but the fact that a relatively smaller number of people could have amplified their view to such a large degree to force a huge company to withdraw an ad. What does that tell you about the ecosystem in which brand managers, advertising agencies and corporates are right now functioning?
I think that ecosystem is actually larger, and it has impact which is larger than just on advertising and brand management. I think this is an ecosystem of social media where you find that there is, now there is a democratization of opinion, A. B, there is also, the possibility of all kinds of bots and fake accounts, which sort of, in that sense, flood that social media ecosystem with very motivated messages. So you have, it's a completely different world, and it's not just brands. I mean, look at media. I mean, media, the amount of self-censorship, at one level, and the amount of distortion of news that we are seeing today is the same part of the same phenomenon, which is, because that is led by, again, social media, which is not actually, in terms of numbers, is not still very significant. But in terms of the overwhelming and immediate presence that it kind of, it conveys, I think it can be very intimidating. And I think that is what we are seeing. And I think this very intimidating ecosystem of public opinion, which when it is used well, we laud it. If, for instance, it is used to correct a company's customer service, then then we laud it because we see the power of democratic opinion at work. But this is the other side of it, and this is the new reality that I think all marketers have to face, which is the fact that they are going to come under intense scrutiny, both legitimate and motivated. And when it is motivated, it is with an agenda, which is what it is in this case. Then they will have to find ways of coping with it. They will have to find ways of withstanding it, anticipating it, and working with it. You cannot function in this new world with the assumptions of the old. You absolutely cannot. And I think this kind of a shock, I think, is something that one will have to learn how to deal with. Otherwise, we will see this occur time and again.
Yeah, the fact is, the flip side of this is that woke advertising or woke messaging for your brand is very much par for the course as well. Roshan, Abbas, I want you to come in on this. There are brands like Zomato, for example, who've gone out, taken a stand and won customer loyalty for it. There are brands that have no choice but to move with the times, like a fairness cream, which recently had to drop the word fair from its brand name. So it's two sides of the coin, isn't it?
No, absolutely. But I think, going back to what Santosh said, which is very important to know, is that A, we live in a new reality, but the facts of this new reality are not known to many people. I was researching yesterday that it takes anything between 1,200 to 1,900 tweets done by 500 to 800 people. That's it for a topic to trend. There are about 86,000 trends that happen in a day, and some of them come to the top. So it's actually a very small minority, but it's an organized minority. What's happening is that real opinion takes a lot of time to organize. But what's happening currently is that there are campaigns being run on Facebook. There are groups which have been mentioned in books, in articles, in newsprint, everywhere, that there are Facebook groups which every day decide what they're going to work on. And as you would have noticed in the last 2-3 months, there is a sustained campaign that is built. The hashtag is decided. Everybody decides a given point in time. They know the science of doing this now. And then they do this, and look at what happens. An invisible person, whether a bot or a real human being, suddenly feels so empowered. 3 days back, they were giving a rape threat to a cricketer because of not performing in a match. And when they finally found it, it was a 16-year-old boy sitting somewhere. But this is what happens. Suddenly, it gives people a feeling of power. B, it's organized, but we must understand that this is a very small minority. It's just that the real majority takes a certain amount of time. I think that the number of times the ad has now been shared by people is a great positive marketing that's happened, because without spending any money, that ad is being shared by everyone and it's being seen by millions of people, because there is popular opinion mobilizing behind it. But we've got to understand that.
No, Roshan, I wanted to distinguish between social media and its outsized impact and the actual impact on brands, marketing and the image of a product. You're talking about the ad being viewed several more times. That's great. Yeah. Is it going to push people to go and buy more? Or let me put it this way, when a boycott something trend, hashtag trends, do people really go and boycott anything? Is it real?
Exactly half the people boycotting Chinese phones were doing it from Chinese phones. I mean, let's be honest. The people are, I genuinely feel that there's a herd mentality which drives people to feel a moment of power, but it does not. It may obviously impact the brand head. I know that there are CMOs who sit and look at sentiment analysis of their brands online, and that's something which has become like, people checking what a brand reputation is. But I believe that the fact that you've just got to be really strong, because advertising ultimately comes out of great polarized opinions about things that you haven't thought of, about ideas that somewhere spark your imagination. Now, sparking your imagination is fine, and that's where brands need to be strong and follow through. I mean, I think one part of it was taking the ad down is the issue, and I can understand bodily harm. I can understand the issue of people have even put up people's telephone numbers, etc. And then it becomes a security risk. But brands just need to be a little more braver and stand up. Some brands are standing up saying we will not advertise in certain places because of the way you all are doing things. Conscious capitalism has to be practiced.
No, but so again, Shailendra Singh, I come back to the question I started with, and everyone's talked about their opinion on the issue. I'm glad all of us have, but let me come down to brass tacks. Does this set a precedent? Tomorrow you have a huge company with a large brand looking for its next campaign. Chances are that this is a theme that they're going to steer clear for. They don't want to talk about this unity and diversity theme at all. Or you want to minimize the presence of one community in mainline advertisement. Because it doesn't really work out for you. Do you think those calculations will begin to be made?
So after listening to Santosh and Roshan's point of views, what you understand is the reality of India. Okay, there is a social media and there is a sort of a digital and virtual world, and then there is a real world. In the real world, there is a law of the land. Now, if you see the perspective from both the gentlemen's comments, what you understand is, therefore, that maybe Tanishq in this case, which is unfortunate, maybe they used the route of controversy to get the attention. Because, look, trolling is nothing new in the industry. I mean, all of Bollywood was trolled out fully, but no endorsements stopped for any Bollywood celebrity, no movies have stopped, nothing happened. Allegedly, Bollywood is the most darkest industry in the whole world for the last 4 months, but nothing happened like that, okay? So therefore, I feel that Tata's withdrawal, Tanishq's withdrawal, there is a law of the land. So what are you saying? If people start through social media, start threatening you about your industry, or start telling Hero Motors that your motorcycle is being manufactured in a Muslim locality and it won't be sold, therefore in Allahabad and Varanasi, what do you think, the Hero Motors plant will stop manufacturing motorcycles in a Muslim locality, or what? This is not, I mean, I feel somewhere that Tanishq and Tata's reactions are completely premature, and what they've done is set the wrong precedent, because there is a country, there is a law of the land, there is a constitution, and I feel that every citizen will only feel safe and democratically safe in this country if he or she is allowed to do things by the law of the land. The law of the land does not tell you that you cannot make a commercial like this. The law of the land does not tell you that that anybody can control you and you're supposed to stop your industry or business and stop selling your products. So this is completely, in my opinion, incorrect. And I hope Tanishq has not done it as a part of a strategy, like Roshan correctly said, that it has got far more viewership than possibly the ad expected it to get.
But I don't think he alluded that they did it on purpose. Roshan, was that what you were trying to say? I don't think he was alluding that Tanishq did this on purpose.
That's why I'm saying that I think
inadvertently may have got more views.
The irony is that it's got viewed a lot more. And I just feel that social media trends, that's what I'm saying. The social media trends are created by such a minority that we must recognize that, and brands need to be braver. What you said about brands having opinions, will they go for advertising that is opinionated? Will they take stands? Which is where my last point was on conscious capitalism. Now look at what's happened in the US. Black Lives Matter has become a campaign. It has the swell of support of people, and that's why brands are pulling off from certain places. So I think this conscious capitalism, where we are asking brands to actually participate, because it seems that the government really is just being a mute spectator, just as Shailendra said. So brands will need to take a stand. Yes, there will be a worry. I'm sure there are worries about P&Ls and the investments they've made, etc. But don't forget, we've had controversies for years. We've had controversies about a python. We've had, instead of a shoe thing with people many years ago, if you remember, we've had controversies which have involved celebrities, Coke, Cadbury's, etc., etc.
Only people of a certain vintage remember that, Roshan.
I'm sure that's what I'm saying. I said it.
Yes. We know what you're talking about, but only people of a certain vintage remember that ad.
Right. True.
Now, okay, Shailendra, you want to quickly respond? You just want to clarify the point you were making after Roshan has said his piece?
I was saying, and whether you look at all the celebrities in the public space, for me, Tanishq is as important a brand like maybe a Virat Kohli or a Mahendra Singh Dhoni or Deepika Padukone, whatever. It doesn't mean that Dhoni stopped playing the IPL. I mean, it's just because you get trolled and you suddenly now are feeling that social media seems to be the next new constitution of India and it actually is the law of the land, then you're stupid in my opinion, and your investments are down the drain, because somewhere in the long run, Tata's is the company that owns a brand like Tanishq. I mean, somewhere you're compromising the DNA of your brand by being reactive to social media trolls, in my opinion. So that's my short point.
Okay, Mr. Desai, I want to get a sense from you on how far do you think this will go? Because on the other hand, conscious capitalism, what Roshan was talking about, and being woke has also become imperative for a brand identity. You can't seem to be on, behind the times or not supporting weak groups either. And do you think that will also work itself into the narrative?
Yes, I think that is essentially, I think you're seeing two movements that are working in opposite directions. At one level, you're seeing the rise of what you're calling woke capitalism and therefore woke messaging, which has its origins in the West. And so I think that's, and increasingly for brands to take on a position of which professes larger social engagement and concern. And so brands are becoming, therefore, in an earlier time, brands were only concerned with themselves. Now, increasingly, brands are concerned with the social impact that they have. So on the one hand, you have that trend. On the other hand, you have this whole very, very militant kind of a social media phenomenon, which is extremely vocal, extremely assertive, aggressive, and can be vitriolic and vicious. So you have these two that are working in some senses against each other, these two forces. And I think what it means for brands is the fact that they will have to prepare themselves. The question that you had asked earlier, that what happens, will brand, there will be a bunch of brands that will self-censor, that will think twice about saying anything controversial. On the other hand, there will be brands that actually will increasingly take a view that they will stand by their beliefs. Because if the overall understanding is the fact that consumers are looking for brands that have a strong core of belief, and then there will be brands that will sort of walk into this with their eyes open, will understand the fact, everything that has been said about the fact that this is actually a small group, it is motivated, and will take, I think, stronger positions. So I think what we are going to see, the fallout we are going to see is of two kinds. One is a movement to safety and caution. You will also see that, which might be, in fact, the dominant reaction. Because let's be clear, what is happening now is not an accident. Why is it that the Tatas are worried? Not only because there is a transient trend, but because there is a feeling that this is backed by the dominant sort of political ideology today. So that this is not just a bunch of people venting, but that this has the implicit support of the state, which is the reason why you don't feel that your showrooms will be protected if in case there is any violent attack on them. There is no confidence that
Santosh,
there is.
let me just counter that for a second. Let me just present a counter to that for the second. No one from any position of authority has endorsed this, and neither has the brand or the group or the company gone and filed an FIR saying that, we have been threatened, our employees have been threatened, please protect us. It seems to be some tacit, quiet understanding or a backing down on one end. That's the problem. All of this is about perception, and your perception will change depending on what your mindset is.
No, intimidation is always in the air. Intimidation is the implicit threat. It is not the explicit threat. Then that is violence. I mean, to argue that there is no implicit threat here, or the fact that you do not believe, of course there is an implicit threat, and not just, the reason why I bring up media is you look at media and then what has happened to media today. And if you tell me has anybody threatened the media? Has anybody actually come out and actually said anything? Has media filed an FIR? But you look at the state of news in the country today, you cannot say that it has nothing to do with a certain amount of, aligning with a certain dominant political narrative. You cannot argue that. And similarly here, simply because there is no visible and public support for this does not mean that the fear may even be irrational, but the fear is that by not acting and not taking action and not taking defensive action, you may run afoul of the dominant political ideology. I think that is also at work in the reaction of this brand and other brands in the future.
No, I completely agree with what Santosh is saying, because what the point is very, very clear that nobody has come out and supported this, but then nobody has gone out and condemned it. You expect your political leaders, you expect people in position of power. Most people that I know on my timeline have gone out and spoken vocally about it. It is said that one or two of the people who have gone and exposed in terms of put down the telephone numbers and put out threats to certain people in the Tatas are people who are followed by certain leaders of our country as well. There is 101% a tacit collusion, which is sometimes just the fact. See, people get empowered by knowing no action will be taken. And when they know no action will be taken, they go out and do this a lot more. And what happens is, see, there's an Indian mentality, which is, chalo, turn the other way, ho jayega, let's go on with our lives. But I genuinely think that it is time to stop that, because as Santosh has said, media seems to be playing not the role any longer of actually being just, presenting both sides of the view. I don't know last when I heard two sides of a story. And we're getting used to just being, either domineered, bullied, pushed into accepting something which we don't need to do.
Yeah. No, so I wanted to come in and talk about what this will actually translate into. I'm hearing a lot of opinions on the state of affairs, and rightly so. But I want to understand the next time any of you are speaking to someone who wants to understand or wants to plan their brand strategy, what are you going to tell them? Are you going to tell them, go woke? Go out with bold subjects which will get you maybe trolled, but at least you will be trending, you will have more eyeballs for your product, because at the end of the day, that is the purpose, right, of advertising. So what is that conversation going to look like? Shailendra Singh?
Yeah, I think, in what Tanishq has done, so for my thought process primarily comes from an aspect that if you now today look at the social media and balance the negatives versus the positives, the support for the Tanishq advertisement is far greater than the negative impact of it. Suddenly it's tilted towards positivity. So what? Now Tanishq is going to come back and re-release the advertisement. How is it going to work? Because finally, to be honest, what you see online is a huge amount of support for what they projected in that commercial. That's point number one. Point number two, a golden opportunity. I mean, if Tanishq was doing this intentionally, make another commercial, swap the religions, release a sequel commercial. If that was your objective, just put out another commercial and just swap the religions and get this branding exercise that you intended to do forward. And last but not the least, if this is our nation, if this is the constitution, if this is the secular nation that we pretend to be one, I mean, you know what? Today, humans are being divided by religion, and who knows, tomorrow somebody's going to start waking up and saying, hey, the flowers and the birds and the bees and the animals also will have religion. I mean, and this is a Muslim horse and that's a Hindu rose. I mean, this is never going to stop. This is rubbish, to be honest. And I think this is a great opportunity for the nation from bottom up, obviously top down. I mean, these guys play the games as per their agendas, so they take time to react. The Prime Minister said, Pakistan is our enemy, and then we went and played the World Cup with them just 2 weeks later in cricket. I mean, so I don't understand how that works, but forget about that. But as Indians, as a nation, I really believe that, if Tanishq really felt what they did in this commercial, they showed that we are a united nation and religion should not divide us. This is fantastic. Play on the front foot. Do another commercial. Get on with it, man. And show that you really believed in that ideology. And you didn't do it just for controversy.
Yeah. Okay, so that is what you think that Tanishq should do. Perhaps action should be taken in the course of law against those who made threats against specific individuals, because those can be covered under various sections of the law, and that should then follow its course. I would thank all of you for joining us for this very enlightening discussion, and just end with a note saying that what a few people say on social media, or even what one commercial says, does not define what India is. So let's not get too caught up with the noise that surrounds us on our timeline. Sometimes it's important to sit back, take a moment, and look at an issue for what it really is. On that note, I want to thank all of you for joining us on the discussion this evening.
Thank you.